All right, so last time we talked about your assignment 5 and lab 5, so I didn't go over this, but this would have been on Monday. I do want to remind you all that your midterm will be next Monday. This Friday is a wellness day, so we do not have class. However, you still have an assignment due. Assignment 6 is still due. All right. So I believe assignment 6 covers what I'm talking about today. Yep. And I'll talk about that at the end of the class. All right. So today we're going to be talking about switch statements. Okay. So you remember previously we talked about if statements, else if, and else. And again, those allow us to control the order of operation or the logical operation of our programs, right? Based on certain conditions, we can decide whether we want our program to do, A, B, or C. And that's really powerful in programming because with anything, even in real life, there's a lot of different conditions that could occur. And typically, a lot of them can be broken down into logical expressions. If this, what should I do? If this, what should I do? Else if, do this, right? There are a lot of different conditions. Again, if I break it down to the street light, if the light is green, go through. Else if the light is yellow, speed up and go through. Lastly, else if it's red, stop, right? If it's not green, if it's not yellow, the only other possibility, if the light is working correctly, is red. So that means you should stop. Or even if there's another condition, if there's two different lights showing, typically you'd want to stop, right? You don't want to go through that. So else would be appropriate to handle that type of condition. So something very similar to if statements is something called a switch statement. Right? It provides logical control for program as well, just like an if statement. And anything you do in a switch statement can be replicated with an if statement. The main benefit of a switch statement is just ease of use and simplicity. So how you use it is you say switch, whatever your condition is. So typically it's a number. And then for each number that you have, you put case, that value, and then whatever you want to do for that. So what do I mean? Let me give you an example. So prompt the user to enter the number that corresponds with their favorite basketball player. Right? I have LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kevin Durant. Respond to the user's favorite player with different statements per player. Right? Depending on whatever they enter in, I want to respond differently to it. So here would be my full program. Okay, and I think, yep. So the first thing I do is prompt the user to enter in the number that represents their favorite player. So I want them to either enter in a 0 for LeBron, a 1 for Kobe, 2 for Michael Jordan, 3 for Shaq, or 4 for Kevin Durant. Okay. So if I start this program, I enter in a 2, that means my favorite player is Michael Jordan. If I enter in a 4, that means my favorite player is Kevin Durant. Okay. So regardless of what their input is, I'm prompting them to do that. Then I'm going to read in that number, right? So first I create my scanner object. Scanner input equals new scanner. You've seen that plenty of times. Again, that should be starting to get familiar to you. Then I'm going to say int option equals integer.parseInt, input.next. Now that's different from what you all have done. You use just input.nextInt, which is fine. Either way is fine. So if you still use input.nextInt, that's cool as well. All right, I just chose to do it a different way. Then you see all these if and else if statements. This first if statement, if option equals 0, that means they said LeBron James was a good choice, right? They go on to the next one. That means they said Kobe. I want to say strong answer. If I go to the next one, MJ is pretty good, right? They enter in a 2. entered in a 3, the most dominant player in history, right? Lastly, they entered in a 4, KD is a good scorer, right? So based on their input, obviously I'm doing something differently. And I have these if statements to do that. If option equals 0. Remember, option is what we read in from the console. We say good choice. We say strong answer for Kobe Bryant. MJ is pretty good. For Shaq, is the most dominant player in history. And then lastly, KD is a good scorer. Everybody with me so far?
Yes, Professor. This is a little off topic, sorry. But did you make this code?
I did.
Are these your accurate feelings about these players?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, who's your favorite player, Shaq?
You just have to guess. It's probably the first one, though. LeBron James. Coach James. Well, come on now. All right, let's keep going. All right, so we can modify that, all those if statements, with a switch. All right. So let's see how we do that. So this is what we had before. This is what it becomes. All right, so what you see in red is what I changed. All right. So again, we prompt them for their favorite player. We read in that number. Then we start a switch on that option. So whatever they typed in, we say switch. So basically switch between those different numbers. If that number is a 0, we want to say good choice. If the number they typed in is a 1, so literally case 1. If they type in a 1, do this. If they type in a 2, case 2, do this. Literally, so we say switch on this option. If option equals 0, do this. If option equals 1, do this. If option equals 2, do this. So those cases literally connect to the value of option. If option equals 3, if option equals 4, lastly, if it doesn't equal any of those, we put default. That's essentially our else statement, right? It handles everything else. You didn't make a choice. Some things to note. 1, this option must be an integer. For our purposes, we're going to say option must be an integer. Okay? Another thing is we must start each option with a case statement. Every single one, it starts with a case. Okay? Every single one has a case. Then the value of option goes after that keyword. So if option equals 0, if option equals 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again, each case statement, so each one of these little cases must have a break in it. Break. And that basically just tells the compiler, once you go inside this case, in the program. Don't look at any other ones. All right. So let's see this in the visualizer. All right. So here's all our code. These parentheses do not copy correctly, unfortunately. Actually, you know what? I might be able to get it to copy. Nope, it still doesn't work. All right. So I'm going to change all of these. Give me a quick second here. Almost done. All right. So we have all our cases, and let me make this look a little bit better. Oh, I can't tab these. I can do this though. All right, so you see our switch. We're switching on this option that we read in from the console. As always, I need to import java.util.scanner. We read in the option from the console, and then depending on what the user types in, we want to put all this, all right? We want to switch on it. Let's put in a 7. If you look at my program, I don't have any cases for a 7. So, as you would expect, it's going to go down to my default statement and say you didn't make a valid choice. So let's visualize this, and I'm going to change this. Input.nextInt. Forward. EC is going to print all that out to the console down here. Who is your favorite player? Create our scanner object. Read in 7 from the console. So if you see here, option equals 7 right now. Then we go to our switch statement. It's going to jump all the way down to our default because none of these are true. It prints out you didn't make a valid choice, and our program ends. So let's make a valid choice. Let's make the correct choice. We put in a 0. Right? We print everything out again to the console. We read in that option from the console. Option equals 0. And it's going to go directly to the correct choice, which is good choice. All right. We do this again. Let's put in a 3. I think 3 is Shaq. So if that's the case, we wanted to say the most dominant player in history. Right? We read in 3, option equals 3, which is what I put in the console. Then we go down to case 3. Prints out, and it breaks. And that's it. We can do this in JGraphs as well. File new, Java. As always, the first thing is to create our class, public class lecture 10. Then our main. Please, again, be mindful of how I format my program. Indentations and new lines are your best friend. Public static void main string args. All right. Now from here, I can copy and paste everything I had over here. All right. So that's all that same code I had. My closing brackets for my main, then my closing bracket for my class. Can anybody tell me the error I've made so far? What have I missed? It's something I haven't done that I always need to do when I want to read from the console.
The import scanner.
That is correct. Yep. Every time you want to read from the console, you must import java.util.scanner. All right. So now hopefully this works. You never know when you compile things. It works. All right. So let's run this. I'm going to debug it though. which basically means I want to go line by line. And I don't think I've described how to actually debug yet. But basically, if you want to debug your program, go line by line, you decide what line do I want my program to stop at. Let's say, for example, I wanted to stop at this line. I go over here, and you see this little red dot that shows up on my mouse. Actually, I think I can. So I'm over here, right? If I go over here on this little gray panel, whatever line I want to do it on, I just click and it adds that little icon there. All right. So that's where my program will stop. Next, I click on the little ladybug thing. And it's going to stop at that line. If you want to delete this, you just click on it and it deletes it. And you can put it anywhere you want, as long as there's a valid line. Like I put it here, but there's no code here. I don't know if it'll stop or not. It may, but there's no code there. So you want to put it on the line where there is code. So I put it on the line with my switch statement. And again, you hit the little red ladybug. Now it's waiting for me to enter an option, so let me do that. Let me type in 6, and it stops here. If you remember, I don't have anything that's checked for a 6, so it's going to go down to my default. In order to keep going through your program, you click on this little icon right here. All right, and it goes to the next line, which jumps automatically to my default statement, and it prints it out. Now notice this little caret right here, this little symbol does not print out very well in actual code. I don't actually know how to print that out. I'd have to look that up. So I'm just going to say you did not make a valid choice. Let's try this again. Type in a 7. Click on this little symbol right here. It goes to the next line, prints it out, and we're done. Let's run this again. I'm going to put in a 2. Hit enter. It's going to jump automatically to 2. MJ is pretty good. Does that make sense? Again, these switch statements allow us to control the options or the operation of our program through logical operations. Typically, you want to use this when you have user input like this. So, who is your favorite player? 0 through 4. If you have that type of user input, a switch statement comes in handy. All right. So, when to use it? If there is a set number of possible options. So I know exactly there are only 5 options, 0 through 4. Switch statement is really good. The benefits of a switch is it's a little bit cleaner than an if, else statement, right? If you think back to all the way up here, this slide, you see I have all these if, else if. You can do away with all of those with a simple switch statement. Switch and your different cases. Right? Simple switch statement makes that a lot cleaner. And lastly, like I said, it's great for user prompts. So you have a user that's saying, hey, enter your options, enter your favorite player option. It's great for that situation. And we're not going to do the Kahoot quiz right now. Right? So the last thing I wanted to do was go over your assignment.